But even Trump made significant changes in the U.S. international politics,
Absolutely.
in particular with China. So would you like to spend a couple of minutes talking about this trade war between the United States and China and the consequences on China's economy?
Okay, good question, very good question. Yes, Trump changed many of the traditional platform of the Republican Party. As I said, Republican Party was the party that abolished slavery. Republican Party was the party of free trade. And Trump changed all that. Nobody really thought that his changes within the Republican Party were going to be as profound as they were. Take, for instance, the example of free trade. Free trade was a universal belief among economists, among the establishment, among among everybody. There was opposition to free trade, for instance, from unions. Unions in the United States are more protectionist than the rest. Were more protectionist. Now there's much more protectionist. But Trump came in, and then Republican Party had always been a party of internationalism. They supported an open economy in the United States and a responsible economy in the world. But Trump came with an isolationist message and with this idea that America should be first.
Yeah.
The United States had been shortchanged by its partners, particularly its European partners. They have profited from the United States. They didn't pay as much for NATO, for example, as the United States does. So the message, the foreign policy message of the Trump administration was isolationist, anti-immigrant, anti-free trade, and confrontationally with the allies. So it was an isolationist message. It was, the slogan was America first, you know, make America great again. That was the slogan.
We have something similar in Italy. We have Italians before.
Yeah.
We have something like very similar. Anyway.
There you are. So you have a similar feeling, you know.
Oh, yes.
Result of this.
And Brexit in the UK. That's why Brexit won, because they wanted to keep being an island, not to be conquered by the immigrants.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Really,
yeah.
a wave, you know, in the world.
That's a wave.
And you wonder, you know, he's at least in the United States, and I guess in Europe as well, Trump is reflecting very deep currents that exist in this society. Very deep. For instance, the accusation against immigrants, the accusation against Hispanic immigrants, particularly Mexicans, targeted, you know.
The wall between Mexico and the States.
Because, you know, Hispanics in the United States now represent about 60 million people. It's the largest minority in the country right now. That's equivalent to about 20% of the population. So 20% of the population in the United States is Hispanic.
Yeah.
Hispanic means that they come from Spanish-speaking countries, you know, like myself.
Yep.
I am Hispanic in the United States. You know. I am from Guatemala, but
I've been to Guatemala.
Be proud. Be proud. Proud of being.
Yeah, be proud. Great civilization. Yeah.
Unfortunately, not ruled by its climate, you know.
Yeah.
It has the best climate in the world. But unfortunately, the climate doesn't have to do anything about the politics. We can talk about Guatemala a little bit if you want. By the way, Professor Glieses is one of the specialists in Guatemala because he has written one of the most profound books about Guatemala, you know, that exist.
And he is Italian in origin.
He's Italian, of course. I know.
Yeah.
We were just to tell you anecdotically, we were classmates in university in Switzerland.
Oh.
So you attended university in Switzerland?
Friendship.
Yes, I went to grad school.
Okay.
Yeah, and I met Professor Glieses there. So I've known him. I'm going to reveal the secret. Don't tell anybody. I've known Professor Glieses for 55 years.
Okay. Your secret is safe with us. Only our students.
And won't tell anybody.
Yeah, no.
I guess he wouldn't like me to tell that secret, you know, but no problem. So back to the trade war. Now, China is becoming one of the most important trading partners for the United States. Mexico and Canada are the most important trading partners for the United States, both. Through the North American Free Trade Agreement, Canada, Mexico, and the United States do almost $1 billion a day in business.
No.
But single-handedly, China is the second, after Mexico and Canada, is the second most important trading partner of the United States. And you see it when you go to buy anything. For instance, when you go to buy a shirt, you look at the label.
Made in China.
Made in China.
PRC, now they put PRC instead of China, which is the same.
I've read a little bit, for instance, about the disappearance of the fine textile industry in Italy.
Yeah.
That is now controlled by China.
Because it's cheaper in China.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
they do have branches. Italian laborers do produce the garments in China.
It's a worldwide phenomenon. And China is an economy that is expanding at rates. It was expanding at rates of double-digit rates. China was growing in the last 30 years, double digits. They pulled out 600 million people out of poverty. It's the biggest transformation as far as poverty is concerned in the history of humanity. Nobody has ever seen such a thing. And the economy expands, you know, at a rate that is impressive. It was slowing down, it is true. But the relationship with the United States was there, very intense. And of course, it was interesting because at the White House, the mentality on trade was that in trade, you always needed to have a surplus with any trading partner, you know. It was a very mercantilist way of looking at international trade. This was the middle-aged version of international trade, you know, where you needed to have a surplus with everybody.
Yep.
That was something that did not exist. For many years had not existed. Economists in the United States didn't believe in that kind of thing. The trade surplus is not a measure of success in international trade. The measure of success in international trade is all of your relationships. Because you may have a surplus with somebody, but you may have a deficit with somebody else. And that compensates, you know? So globally is the way you see the benefits of trade. Now, in the case of the Trump administration, it was surplus always. And the United States has a deficit with China. China doesn't buy as much in the United States as the United States buys in China. So according to that measure, the United States was losing with China.
Okay.
You see, that's the mentality. There is a specific advisor in the White House. His name is a Professor Peter Navarro. He is the person that has been advising President Trump on this issue.
There was. I hope he was.
Well,
so we put the blame
no.
on him.
in 3 weeks, you know, he will be gone.
In 3 weeks, you're moving away. Okay.
We're counting the days.
He's still there, you know, he's still there.
Yeah.
He's now in charge of supplies related to the pandemic. He's very influential advisor to President. President Trump has had 2 advisors that have lasted throughout his administration. One advisor on trade, Peter Navarro, and another advisor on immigration, Miller, Stephen Miller.
Okay.
Those
Bad advisors.
have stayed.
Might soon be gone.
Exactly, but have stayed.
Yes, so
and if you think of the 2 issues that they handle, immigration and trade, you know, it's very impressive, the fact that they are the ones that have survived, you know, the whole thing. But anyway, that's anecdotal. You know, I don't want to be anecdotal. I just want to mention that in passing. But confrontation with China was real. And so they came up with this brilliant idea that they want to set up tariffs against China. They started putting tariffs against everybody. For instance, the steel industry, they put tariffs against Canada and Mexico. The 2 most devoted, if you want, to trading partners of the United States were going to pay tariffs. So in that situation, the confrontation with China was popular in the United States. It appealed to a nationalist sentiment, you know, of a competitor that needs to be defeated if you want to. You know, this idea that the United States defeated the Soviet Union, here is the new Cold War, you know, here is the new enemy, the new adversary that you have to defeat. It fed, you know, into this nationalist sentiment that existed as regards immigration, as regards everything else. So tariffs were set up. The understanding of how these tariffs work was incredible. The president said that the United States was making money out of these tariffs. Because whenever a product crosses a border, they pay a tax to the Treasury of the United States, and the United States makes money. But that's a very short-minded understanding of tariffs. Tariffs immediately becomes higher prices because the company that brings the goods in and pays the tax immediately increases the price of the product.
Of course.
And the consumer ends up paying the tax, you know. So it was a tax against the consumer. But no, they were understood as these national defensive measures, you know, in order to protect the United States. So I guess that's where we are right now. That was the policy. China replied, you know, by setting up tariffs against US goods as well. And there are other issues besides trade with China, which is technology, you know, which is a very important issue because the United States accuses China of copying, you know, its technology, and consequently, they would like to establish controls on Chinese companies that are operating in the United States and copying all these technologies, you know, and that kind of thing. So the confrontation in China is commercial, technological, but it's also a rivalry because China is suspected of trying to replace the United States as number one. And of course, the United States doesn't like to be number two. And we have a confrontation between a revisionist power, China, against an established power, the United States. So that's more or less the confrontation with China. I wonder how President-elect Biden is going to deal with this. Nobody knows very much, you know. If he's going to dismantle everything that Trump did, nobody knows for certain. But there are some, I don't think I can tell you exactly what is coming, you know, as far as the relationship with China.
maybe we can organize another interview in a year.
Yeah,
we can do another.
Wait and see. Yeah,
Se vogliamo
1 year on.
Scusate, se vogliamo ancora chiedere al nostro ospite delle relazioni tra i commerci internazionali, la cultura e la globalizzazione culturale.
Okay, so just to wrap up with the last question, because otherwise we lose our students' concentration if we're going to take too much. And thank you for your time and your clarity.
I have all the time in the world.
I do appreciate it.
You know, I enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
There were 7 questions. There's one more, no?
Yeah.
The last one.
The last question you mentioned is foreseen V growth when you were talking about the pandemic. And the question is about, you think there's a corresponding V growth between globalization in terms of economy and in terms of cultural development?
Yes. Well, the idea that we were going to have a V-shaped economy, you know, a tremendous fall and a tremendous reactivation, did not happen. Because
what about
the pandemic once again defeated the economy. Because the cases started increasing again in the summer, and closing of businesses and unemployment increased again. And as a result of that, the other side of the V, the going up, was stopped.
And you think globalization in cultural terms will increase together with the economic globalization once it picks up again?
Okay, let me just tell you exactly what happened. What happened is that 22 million people were unemployed as a result of the fall. By the middle of the summer, there were still 10 million people unemployed. Only half of those unemployed had regained employment. But this is a time when the economy was being closed again as a result of the pandemic. Because the only way you can deal with this pandemic is you close. And by closing, you depress the economy. I don't think some countries have found a way, of dealing with the pandemic in a way that doesn't hurt the economy. But if you close business activities, you generate a recession in the economy because demand falls, as I mentioned at the beginning, and then consequently the economy falls into recession. Now, by the middle of the summer, when President Trump fell ill and all those happenings, the economy was beginning to slow down. And suddenly you discovered that in this new economy, in the middle of the pandemic, some were doing well, others were not doing so well. And the economic reactivation became a K, a letter K. Some going up and some going down. Figure out the letter K?
Yep.
What happened? Some people were not hurt by the pandemic. People that can work out of home, people that have computers, people that kept their jobs, they were doing well with the pandemic. Some activities, some industries were doing very well. Who was hurt? The less prepared workers, women, because of a lack of childcare facilities, because childcare facilities were being closed as a result of the pandemic, and women were not going to work because they had to take care of their children. And young people. Young people started going back from school and going back to live with their parents, was the only solution for them. They didn't have jobs. So suddenly you have an economy that is shaped like a K. People going down, particularly those linked to the services industries, where you need to be present in order to provide a service, such as restaurants, hotels, travel, all that kind of activity. And then those people that are college educated, that have computers, that keep making their salaries, saving a lot of money because you cannot spend that much money in the middle of the pandemic. So they have tremendous savings. So they're doing very well. But that is not the kind of economy or the kind of reactivation you want. And this is what defeated President Trump. Because by November, he was hoping that a miracle was going to happen. A vaccine was going to come out, the virus will go away, you know, you name it. But the miracle didn't happen. What happened, that was most of the people, a big proportion of the people, particularly persons linked to the services industries, went down, lost their jobs, didn't have insurance, and so on and so forth. And those that did very well. And those that did very well voted against President Trump, by the way. President Trump, just to conclude, got 74 million votes. 74 million Americans voted for President Trump in an election that had the highest levels of participation in the history of the United States.
We saw that.
That has not happened before. President-elect Biden got 81 million votes. He beat President Trump by 7 million votes. But 74 million voters
still
voted for President Trump. So don't underestimate President Trump again.
No, we won't. We saw what he's capable of. So
74 million Americans voted for him.
Yeah, so they believe in his message.
So he increased his base, he increased his popularity. And President-elect Biden won the election by a very narrow margin. It was very narrow. So let's do another one in a couple of months, you know, in order to see how President Biden starts and what happens to him.
What is what?
Yes.
So I'm going to conclude there, but I've had a very good time. You've had great questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really nice.
Thank you.
And
Muchas gracias.
thank you.
Por nada.
Ringraziamo tantissimo il nostro ospite, il professor Cohen, che ci ha dato una lezione di storia contemporanea, proprio di spessore degli aspetti non solo economici ma anche politici. Abbiamo ripassato qualcosa sul sogno americano e abbiamo imparato che è ciclico il sogno americano, cioè risorge come l'araba fenice nei periodi di crisi dell'economia, decade, sembra sparito, e poi quando l'economia si riprende, la speranza, no, di avere i figli che stanno meglio dei genitori rinasce ad ogni generazione, ad ogni ciclo economico. Abbiamo imparato che nella politica americana Trump ha perso le elezioni per colpa della pandemia, quindi non per colpa di quello che dice o di quello che fa, anche nei riguardi dell'isolazionismo commerciale o dell'immigrazione, ma ha perso perché c'è stato il Covid ed è stato sottovalutato. Hanno ripetutamente i suoi avversari fatto questo errore di sottovalutarlo. E poi abbiamo imparato che anche nella storia, per esempio dell'America Latina, ho seguito prima, certi effetti della crisi economica, nel caso specifico della crisi petrolifera degli anni 70-80, ci possono anche essere degli aspetti positivi, delle conseguenze positive, per esempio sulla democratizzazione dei paesi, perché quella crisi ha dimostrato che i regimi totalitari, i regimi dittatoriali che erano in sella in quel momento, in quei paesi, non hanno saputo dare risposte alla popolazione in difficoltà. E quindi paradossalmente, no, quindi contrariamente a quello che si pensa, che quando un paese è in difficoltà si rivolge al dittatore, in quei casi lì si è rivolto alla democrazia, sperando che la situazione migliorasse. E direi che tutto sommato a 20-30 anni di distanza le cose dovrebbero essere migliorate rispetto a quei tempi, credo. Mi auguro che sia così. Ringraziamo ancora il nostro ospite e naturalmente...
Thank you very much and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, but let me say just that I think that Paolo in Italian has made a brilliant summary of many of the things I said. I wish I could have said them in the same way, you know, because
you did. That's why you made a good summary.
Italian is incomparable. You know, I have a great admiration for the Italian language, but and I realize when I listen to Paolo, I say, my goodness, I wish I could speak like that. So it makes me very envious, you know, of the way you summarize the whole thing. And I appreciate your invitation. It helps me, you know. I learn also by listening to your questions. You have great questions. I hope this is useful for your students.
It is.
Of course, it is.
It has been, and it is, and it's gonna be. Yeah, definitely.
If ever you would like to do another one, I will do it very gladly.
Oh, no doubt. Be prepared.
I promise.
We will.
Next time I will not confuse the hour, okay?
Don't worry, I'll be there to tell you. I'll send an email.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year and
Auguri.
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 Thank you. And
Thank you.
invite me again, please.